This is the Bavarian Simtec Alpha. It's a high-end screenless wheel that impressed me to the point that I can say this could be probably the last wheel that I've ever need. For disclosure, this is a loaner unit sent by Bavarian Simtec for review. I've been using it for the last 2 months or so. And also I have an affiliate link below if you want to use it. The affiliate link will be random call sign 3 and you'll get 3% discount. But as always, all opinions are my own. The Alpha won't be for everyone. This is a quite expensive wheel. Generally, all wheels of this caliber and type are, as these are niche wheels. It starts for the standard version as £700 plus VAT, €949, or around $880 plus shipping, plus taxes and all of that. If you need extra pedals and a clutch, you need to add 100 to 150 of your currency. And I know that this is not a cheap wheel, considering the background of this channel. A lot of you will scorn the price because, you know, this channel is more suited towards the entry level. The unboxing experience is rather simple. Essentially, there's the wheel inside. If you want a spacer, it also can come with a spacer like this. They have multiple colors. This will be around €69 or thereabouts. Inside there are a set of glossy stickers and also a set of tweezers to apply them. But since it's a loaner unit, I much rather not get attached to it, so I decided not to apply any. In terms of spec, we have a 2-shell construction wheel in a package that weighs around 1,200 grams minus the quick release. It is a 295mm wheel, so it's going to be pretty good for GT or prototype driving. Maybe a little bit too much for Formula. Still, it should cover most of the use cases. The wheel features LEDs in the 3-12-3 configuration, compatible with SimLab, and will have a custom trickery with lights. In terms of buttons, we have 6 buttons at the front. We have 2 7-way funky switches. We have 3 rotaries, 2 thumb rotaries, and this specific one can be linked towards this one. We're going to talk about that in a second. The bottom rotary can be assigned to multiple different functions, up to 8 ones, and it will be completely independent of each specific rotary. And then they'll also have clicks, including the front ones, and the back, of course, you'll have the shifters, top shifters, and clutch if you get the advanced version. And while we are at the back, of course, you can connect this to basically all the wheelbases that will have, you know, a quick release. In this one, I have specifically the Logitech version, but I have used a knockoff, a Fanatec QR2, and that will work as well. But Bavarian also sells a version that will be already pre-installed with the Asetek quick release. So in total here, we have more buttons that basically I can count. It's more than 51 combinations of buttons. You have the regular 6s. These are 7-way funky switch, and these ones will go left, right, you know, 2 and 2, but this one can be 16 at the very least, plus the buttons over here. But when you connect this one to multi-link, this will also be a completely separate usability. Will have a completely different set of inputs. So it's, I think, between 50 and 70 buttons. Basically, there's a lot of buttons and you can do a lot of things with this. We have to talk about this physically, the construction. The construction of this wheel, it is incredibly sturdy. There's no creaks or torsion issues on anything. The buttons are very well assembled, very well construction, very little wobble. There's sometimes a little too much wobble in buttons that will have clicks. This is really not the case. All the buttons will have an excellent clickiness. The ones on the side are a little more dampened, but they are always very precise. You understand that the click is there. They don't feel really mushy. They feel really good. And I'm actually very surprised of how good the funky switches are on this wheel. It's probably one of the best funky switches that I've tried. The other part are actually the ergonomics of this wheel. The ergonomics are excellently done. These silicone handles, you know, I grabbed them. They have exactly the correct girth for my hands. My hands are basically medium sized, I believe, and they feel rather nice. I never had a sore hand after using it. I didn't feel any sort of creases going into my my thumbs or anything like that. It feels an extremely comfortable wheel, and there's no problems using this for extended uses. As for the back, I really love these shifters. These are some of the best shifters out there in terms of clickiness. They're very precise. They're thereabouts with the deltas. The deltas are really, really good. I think the only shifters are better will be the Fanatec BMW M4 GT3. There's something special about those shifters. You know, excellent click. It is dampened in the right place. It is really positive, but they are on the loud side. The only thing I don't like about the back controls are these clutches, but for me, it won't be any difference. I would never buy the extended version. I don't ever use clutches, but for those of you who want clutches, for some reason, these clutches feel kind of flimsy. They are magnetic, so it's not they are flimsy, but they feel a little bit strange. I never used magnetic shifters before. It is just something that I'm noticing, that I noticed when using this and testing. It's not something for me, but if you like it, it's probably going to be good for you. But for myself, I think there are better clutches out there. So there are two very important features on the Alpha wheel. The first one will be beam tech, very interesting. The second one is, for me, one of the most important features that ever appeared in a wheel ever, and then it will be called the multi-link function. Let's go first towards beam. We're connected with SimHub. SimHub gives you all the lights and all of that, the revs. With the hub for the Ferrari, it will only give you 6, but you can change all of your SimHub lights and all of that. For BeamTech specifically, what it means, in essence, is that the ABS and traction control information is directly fed into the wheel and tells you exactly which setting it's on. So in this case, we have ABS 6, as we can see there, and we have ABS 6 at the wheel. As we change the wheel, the ABS changes, and of course the ABS changes as well. In the wheel and traction control, it is exactly the same thing as well. So this only works in Assetto Corsa Competizione and iRacing, probably another game or two. So the functionality is kind of limited, and of course you can get both of these knobs to do whatever you want. Besides being ABS, you can do brake bias if you want to. If you want something else, you can do that as well. What it does, beam tap, is just to show you what is going on in the car and puts it there and the information just in front of you without having a massive screen. So that is interesting. Second feature is multi-link, one of the most important wheel functionalities that I've ever seen, probably even the most important. And what does it do? Essentially, it is capable of getting in one control knob, basically a bunch of different things depending on a position that is set. So we have up to 8, and for example, on the dash, it is connected that dash. So this means I can change the relatives in the standing. So I change my black box, but if I want to go for TC2, for example, you can do whatever you want. You can change the dash in front of you. So this means you have 8 different things that are possible to configure in one rotary knob. So you have 15 different functionalities from one knob, and of course the rotary over here on the thumb rotary. So, you know, it's a lot of functionalities, and it doesn't add any clutter on the use of the steering wheel, and it doesn't add any clutter or visual clutter in the steering wheel itself. Essentially, what it does for you is maintain a more or less of minimalistic and ergonomic look on the wheel, and it's very ergonomic use as well, without making it overcomplicated, because once you understand what it does, it is truly automatic for you. There will be 2 ways to connect the Alpha to your PC in terms of software. The first one will be probably the usage that most people will do, will be, you know, SimHub, because SimHub does a lot of different things if you have screens and bass shakers and all of that. So once you go to your devices and you install a device, it will be basically automatically configured, and essentially you can do a bunch of things inside here. You can change the lighting presets, you can change the controls, you can do basically whatever you want in terms of usage. And if you want to change the type of LED profiles, you can also do that. There will also be a second way to control the Alpha, and it will be through Pit Stop, the software from Bavarian Simtec. This is not ready at the moment, and there are some issues with connectivity, but we can have a look at what it means. So you can create your own profiles. You can change the wheels. You can create your own wheel profiles in terms of colors. Once you do that, you can change what what the wheel does in terms of activating the effects. For example, if the ABS starts to kick in, if you want the lights to do the kicking in of the ABS of the traction control, you can do that. You can do the pit stop lighting up and down. For example, if you don't want the pit stop to be on the top right button, like I don't normally want. Normally, I want where the flash here is. You can do that as well. And it will also allow you to update the firmware, check out if you have the thumb encoder with the multi-link. If you want to invert the multi-link, you can change automatically the byte points or make it easier, because there are ways to do that in the steering wheel itself, but they're just a little more complicated and require you to do a look at the manual. And interestingly enough, it also checks out how many shifts you've done in the wheel. In this case, I only have 2,500 because I've only had this this software for about a week or so. And I'm pretty sure if it was for the full month, it will be closer to 250,000 or maybe 500,000 clicks, because you go through shifting quite a lot when you start doing a lot of sim racing. So that's something really interesting. This software, once again, it's still not ready to go. It should be ready to go around the end of the year or the beginning of the next one. So they're hopefully aiming for Christmas time. And in my opinion, this is a very simple software to use that does essentially everything that SimHub does, but easier to use. These 2 months using the alpha have been great, to be fair. It's probably the first wheel I've used that would completely fill the bill to my needs in many ways, except for one, which will be the price. It is kind of expected, really, when you go to these types of niche wheels. Starting with the ergonomics, they are simply perfect. It's an absolute treat. The grips contribute a lot to the hand being relaxed in a correct grip position to grab the handles or operate the controls. The 295mm width is well within the size I prefer, and probably most. It's not too big, it's not too small, and the shifters are precise. They're a bit on the loud side, but I like the shifting action. But I think the main point is how the ergonomics make it simple to operate the car controls. Most buttons are, including the bottom ones, very easily reachable. Then the other highlight is a synergy between the SmartLink in iRacing, and for example, I use one of the funky switches to operate the black box controls. Binding the black box page to one of the SmartLink options, it clears the way for a lot of button clutter that would require a lot of assignments on the wheel or a separate black box or button box for you to use. The fact you can use the SmartLink to clean a lot of random assignments that I would normally have to run is an absolute godsend. The LEDs are incredibly bright with zero light bleed between buttons. There is plenty to like in this incredibly rigid wheel, and it's super well thought out in terms of display and in terms of the way that the buttons are assembled. There is also the not so good as well. We have to talk about that. The first one is probably something that you will notice from the get-go. It will be the diffusion layer at the front. This is a sticker, and the sticker doesn't feel like it's going to fall down, but it's a cheaper way to achieve this effect of the light coming through it and modulate the light, as you know. But as a sticker is, I'm not sure if in the future this is going to start to peel out. I'm not sure what kind of glue it has, and if it's going to peel out, how is it going to look? This, for me, it is a negative. The second one will be, of course, the clutches that I've talked about. And there is also another one, which will be the EMI issues I had with this wheel. I never had the EMI issues with third-party wheels or anything like that. I've used the Delta before, no issues whatsoever in the same conditions. With this one, it was very hard to make it register. So what I had to do is to double ferrite core every single cable, making sure that I don't have any parallel power cables going in with the USB or something like that. And to make sure everything was correct, after the ferrite cores, everything was fine. But I also changed a USB hub. So if you have already EMI issues with your sim rig for one reason or the other, make sure that you pre-prepare your sim rig by using ferrite cores. Otherwise, you might have some issues with the EMI. After 2 months, I've been using this for 2 months, and very soon I'll have to send it back to Bavarian. I got really used to this wheel because it is light, it is very simplistic, it has basically all the functionalities I have without looking complicated. For example, I love the Acetec Forte wheel As I've, it looks kind of weird, kind of whack. It does have a lot of buttons, but it is overly complicated at times. This one simplifies everything with this beam tech and with the multi-link selection that it does, to the point that you can remove a lot of inputs from buttons that you would normally have assigned for one reason or the other, and it makes everything so simple and you don't need to really think twice. It is a fantastic wheel. It is super comfortable. It is super rigid. And well, it's kind of sad that I'm going to have to send it back. I know the price won't be for everyone, but the feature set, the looks, and the functionality is basically here for those who need it. Let me know in the comments what you think about this wheel.